On my 18th birthday, my stepfather threw me out like trash. "You're worthless. Go suffer like you deserve," he laughed. My mom just watched. I left with nothing. 5 years later, he leaves 16 voicemails a day, crying, begging. I'll let him rot. I never thought I'd be writing this. Honestly, I've been sitting in my car for the past hour, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. The McDonald's Wi-Fi is barely working, but I need to get this out. This morning started like any other day. I woke up to my mom's pancakes, birthday tradition since I was a kid. Everything seemed normal, except Gary, my stepdad, was weirdly quiet at breakfast. Usually, he's going on about his day or complaining about something, but today he just sat there, scrolling through his phone with this weird smile. Some background. Gary married my mom when I was 12. At first, he tried to be the cool stepdad, buying me video games, taking us to Six Flags, that kind of thing. But over the years, especially after he moved us to a different neighborhood, for better opportunities, things changed. He started controlling everything. My mom's spending, who she talked to, even made her quit her receptionist job because he could provide for us. I watched my once independent mom turn into someone who asked permission to buy groceries. The real problem started last month. I overheard mom crying about their maxed out credit cards. When I tried talking to her about it, suggesting she might want to look at their finances together, Gary completely lost it. Started screaming about how I was trying to turn his wife against him. Mom just stood there, staring at the floor like she always does when he gets like this. Cut to today. My 18th birthday. I'm supposed to start community college next month. Already got accepted. Was planning to live at home to save money. After breakfast, I was in my room packing up some old clothes for Goodwill when Gary burst in. He had my phone in his hand. Turned out he'd been reading my texts. He found messages where I'd been helping mom look into opening her own bank account. What followed was the worst 2 hours of my life. Gary went completely nuclear. Called me a manipulative little shit trying to destroy his family. Said I was probably trying to steal from them. When I tried defending myself, he grabbed my backpack, started throwing my stuff in it. "You're 18 now, an adult. Time to learn about consequences," he sneered, tossing my charger at me. "You want to play games with my family? Go play them on the street." The worst part? My mom just stood in the doorway, wiping her eyes saying nothing. When I looked at her, begging her to say something, she turned away. 6 years of Gary's manipulation had broken her completely. I managed to grab my laptop, some clothes and my important documents. Thankfully I kept them hidden after Gary tried storing them safely, last year. As Gary literally pushed me toward the front door, he started laughing. Actually laughing. "You're worthless. Go suffer like you deserve. Maybe if you learn your place, we'll let you come back." That was 5 hours ago. I'm sitting in my 2008 Honda Civic, the one I bought myself working part-time at Target, using McDonald's Wi-Fi, trying to figure out my next move. My phone's blowing up with texts from mom saying she's so sorry and, "We can work this out if you just apologize to Gary." I haven't responded. I've got about $1,400 saved up in my own account, that Gary doesn't know about. My buddy from high school said I can crash on his couch for a few days while I figure things out. I'm scared, yeah, but mostly I'm just done. Done watching Gary destroy my mom's life. Done walking on eggshells in my own home. The community college email about orientation is still sitting in my inbox. I'm going. Gary wanted to teach me about consequences. Fine. But I don't think he's going to like how this plays out. I don't even know why I'm posting this. Maybe I just needed to tell someone. Maybe I needed to get it all straight in my head. Either way, I'm not going back. Not to apologize. Not to beg. Not for anything. Update 1. I wasn't planning to post an update, but something happened yesterday that made me realize how far I've come. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw my mom had liked some old family photos. 2 years. It's been 2 years since the birthday morning. For those who remember my original post, I was the guy whose stepdad Gary threw me out on my 18th birthday for helping my mom try to open her own bank account. Left with just a backpack and my old Civic. A lot has changed. That first month was rough. Sleeping on my friend's couch, showering at the gym, living off ramen and whatever I could get with my Target employee discount. But I stuck with my community college plans. Switched my major to business administration after my first semester. Turns out watching Gary run his business into the ground taught me exactly what not to do. Here's where it gets interesting. Remember how I mentioned Gary's business in my last post? Well, it's worse than I thought. Way worse. Through mutual friends, small town, word gets around. I learned he's been taking deposits from customers, using that money to pay off other jobs, and falling behind on everything. Classic pyramid scheme, just with home maintenance instead of makeup or protein shakes. I wouldn't even know this except Kira. My girlfriend, met her in my economics class, works at the local hardware store. She started noticing Gary coming in, trying to open store credit accounts under different business names. Each time he gets denied, he makes a bigger scene. Last week, He tried using my mom's name on an application. That's what prompted me to write this update. But let me back up. These past 2 years haven't been all drama. I've been focused on building my own life, found a decent apartment with a roommate, started working at a local shop, being vague for privacy. The owner took me under his wing after I helped him set up a proper booking system. Guy was still using a paper calendar in 2023. Now I'm learning everything I can about running a legitimate business. The wild part. Some of Gary's old customers have started coming to me. I never advertised to them or anything. They just found me through Google reviews and word of mouth. Turns out when you actually do quality work and don't scam people, they tell their friends. Mom's been trying to contact me more lately. Not through Gary's phone anymore, but from her own number. Progress, I guess? She said Gary's been getting stressed about money. Apparently, he's been coming home later and later, always on his phone arguing with someone. Last week, she found past due notices from their mortgage company in the trash. I keep my responses short but civil. I'm glad you have your own phone now. Yes, I'm safe. No, I don't want to come over for dinner. I'm not angry anymore. I just don't have the energy for their drama. Kira thinks I should report Gary's business practices to someone. But honestly, I don't need to. His reputation is destroying itself. Just last month, he tried to sponsor a local youth baseball team. Classic Gary, always trying to look like the big shot. The team declined after Googling his business reviews. That had to hurt. The strangest part of all this? I actually ran into him at Home Depot last week. He was arguing with a cashier about a declined credit card. I was grabbing supplies for a weekend project. Our eyes met, and for a second I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Not of me, but of what I represented. Someone who got away. Who's building something real while his house of cards is falling. He tried to pull me aside, started with his usual manipulative stuff about family and loyalty. I just walked away. Didn't need to say anything. My cart was full of materials I could actually pay for. That said enough. Found out this morning that he's been calling around to other local businesses, trying to find investors for some exciting new opportunity. Nobody's biting. Meanwhile, I just signed a lease on my own small workshop space. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Legit mine. With all the proper paperwork and licenses. I'm not posting this to brag. Honestly, watching Gary's life implode isn't even satisfying. It's just sad. But for anyone who's in a situation like I was, who's scared to start over, it gets better. Not quickly, not easily, but it does. Update 2. I wasn't going to post again, but holy shit. The past 48 hours have been insane. Gary just showed up at my workshop, screaming like a lunatic. But let me back up a bit, because this is wild. If you've followed my previous posts, you know the story. Gary, stepdad, threw me out on my 18th birthday. I built my own life and his business has been failing. Well, it's not just failing anymore, it's dead. And he's losing it. It started last week when one of his former customers, this older lady named Mrs. Peterson, came into my shop. She was nearly in tears, telling me how Gary had taken a $3,000 deposit for some work last year and disappeared. Classic Gary. I looked at her documentation and gave her an honest quote for the job. When she mentioned she couldn't afford it after losing money to Gary, I worked out a payment plan with her. Basic human decency, right? Apparently, that was the last straw for Gary. Yesterday morning, I'm at my shop when I hear tires screeching outside. Gary storms in, face red, veins popping. You little shit, you're destroying my reputation. He's waving his phone around, showing me Mrs. Peterson's Google review of my business where she mentioned her experience with him. I stayed behind my counter, security camera rolling, learned that lesson early. Your reputation? You mean the one you built by scamming people? He completely lost it. Started throwing things off my shelves, knocking over displays. I made you. Everything you know about business, you learned from me. I couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, I learned exactly what not to do. That's when he tried to come behind the counter. Kira, who was there doing our books, had already called the cops. Gary was still screaming about family loyalty and how I owed him when they arrived. Watching him try to explain to the officers why he was trashing a legitimate business was something else. They took him away but not before he started crying. Actually crying about how I was ruining his life. All I did was run an honest business. That's literally it. His customers found me on their own. But here's where it gets better. Mom finally called me from a friend's phone. Turns out Gary smashed hers during one of his recent episodes. She's staying at her sister's place. Apparently, after his meltdown at my shop, Gary went home and started breaking things there too. The neighbors called the cops again. She told me everything. How Gary's been taking out payday loans to cover their mortgage, how he's been dodging calls from suppliers, how he tried to use her credit to open new accounts. When she confronted him about it, he blamed me for poisoning local customers against him. The reality? I never had to do anything to get revenge. Just being successful and honest was enough. Every time I fix something Gary screwed up. Every time I give a fair quote to someone he overcharged. Every time I actually finish a job I started, it kills him. He's watching his whole facade crumble, and he can't handle it. My Google business page is full of reviews now. Most mention how different we are from Gary's company. I never asked for these comparisons, people just make them on their own. Each positive review is like a knife in his ego. Today, he's been leaving voicemail after voicemail. First angry, then crying, then trying to sound businesslike, offering to mentor me. The latest one was just him breathing heavily before whispering, "You'll regret this." I've saved them all. Kira thinks he's having a mental breakdown. Maybe. But I remember how calculated he was about destroying my mom's confidence. How methodically he isolated her from friends and family. This isn't a breakdown. It's mask-off time. He's always been this person. He just can't hide it anymore. Mom's talking about divorce. Finally, she found his stash of unpaid bills. They're way deeper in debt than she realized. The house she loved so much. The one Gary convinced her to put in his name for tax purposes. They're 3 months behind on payments. I'm not going to lie. Watching his life implode feels right. Not because I did anything to him, but because he did it all to himself. Every shortcut, every scam, every lie. They're all catching up at once. And the best part, all I had to do was run an honest business. Finally update. This is it. The final chapter of this whole mess. And wow, what a ending it turned out to be. Quick recap for those just joining. Stepdad Gary threw me out at 18. I built my own business. He lost his. And last update ended with him in jail for violating my mom's restraining order. Well, things have escalated. The bank foreclosed on their house last month. Gary hadn't made a payment since September. Mom's been staying with my aunt, filing for divorce, while Gary's been crashing at some weekly rate motel. At least he was, until they kicked him out for fighting with other guests. Here's where it gets interesting. The house was going up for auction. You know, the same house where Gary made me pack my stuff in a backpack and threw me out? Yeah, that one. The one where he told me I was worthless and would never amount to anything. I bought it. Not because I wanted to live there, hell no. But because watching Gary's face when he found out. Worth every penny of my savings and the business loan I took out. I didn't even have to tell him. He found out when he drove by, breaking the restraining order again, and saw me and my crew cleaning out his junk from the garage. He completely lost it. Jumped out of his car, screaming about how I was stealing his legacy. Started throwing things at my truck, calling me every name in the book. One of my neighbors caught it all on their Ring camera. "This is my house," he kept screaming. "You little shit, you planned this?" I just stood there, holding up my phone recording him. "Actually, Gary, it's my house now. All legal and proper, unlike how you used to do things." That's when he tried to rush me. Didn't work out well for him. Turns out my crew doesn't take kindly to some guy attacking their boss. They just stood between us, not even touching him, which made him look even more unhinged on camera. The cops showed up, again. This time, they weren't so gentle with him. Turns out violating a restraining order multiple times has consequences. Who knew? But here's the real kicker. Remember all those customers Gary screwed over? I'm turning the house into a community center. Already got approval from the city council. We're going to offer classes for kids, job training, financial literacy workshops, all the things Gary claimed he was too good for. Mom came to see it yesterday. First time she's been back since moving out. She broke down when she saw the future home of Second Chance Community Center sign we put up. "He always said you'd never amount to anything," she said, looking at the building. He was so wrong. We're keeping one room as a small museum of sorts, displaying all the documentation of Gary's scams, the screenshots of his threatening messages, copies of the bounce checks, everything. Not out of spite, okay, maybe a little, but as a warning to others about financial abuse and manipulation. The local domestic violence shelter is even going to use it for their education programs. Gary's still leaving voicemails. The latest ones are something else. Yesterday he left 16, I counted. Most were just incoherent screaming about betrayal and family loyalty. Some were crying about how he made me who I am. The last one was just him threatening to expose how I stole all his customers. I played them for my lawyer. She just smiled and added them to the file. The community's response has been incredible. Local businesses are donating supplies for the renovation. Gary's old customers keep stopping by, sharing their stories, offering to help. Each one starts with, "I don't know if you remember how Gary." Trust me, I remember. I remember everything yesterday. I saw him parked across the street, watching us work. Just sitting there in his beat-up Corolla. Quite a downgrade from his precious BMW. Staring at the house. I waved. He flipped me off and peeled out so fast he left skid marks. Kira thinks I should feel bad for him. "He's lost everything," she said. "No," I told her. "He threw everything away. There's a difference. Mom's doing better. Started a new job, got her own apartment, even joined a support group for domestic abuse survivors. She apologized for not protecting me from Gary, but honestly, I'm just glad she's finally free me. I'm good. Business is growing. Just opened a second location. Kira said yes when I proposed last week. We're planning a small wedding. Nothing fancy, just friends and family. Well, my family. The ones who actually act like family. As for Gary? Last I heard, he's trying to start over in another town. Good luck to whoever gets him as their new neighbor.